You vote and hope it counts. Now imagine a system where you see your vote lock in. CivicChain. Trust without the guesswork. Voting, the cornerstone of democracy, is cracking under pressure. From long lines to lost ballots, mistrust in elections is rising around the world. But what if there was a better way? What if the integrity of your vote was guaranteed by code, not promises? Welcome to CivicChain, a blockchain voting system built into the constitutional core of the Arcadian Republic. This isn't just secure tech, it's a redesign of civic power, for the people, by protocol. Let's face it, modern voting systems are outdated. We rely on paper ballots, centralized authorities, and post-election audits that often leave more questions than answers. Election interference, software malfunctions, and broken trust in institutions have pushed democracies around the world into a legitimacy crisis. Too often, the process is a black box. You vote, and then you wait. For hours, days, sometimes even weeks. You're expected to trust what happens behind closed doors, even when the process itself is invisible. And for many, especially those in your rural areas, disconnected regions, or under political suppression, voting isn't just difficult, it's inaccessible. But what if we flipped that model completely? What if your vote was instantly verifiable? What if the entire system was publicly auditable by design and couldn't be tampered with, even by those in power? CivicChain answers that question. It's not a reform, it's a replacement. A system that treats voting as infrastructure, resilient, transparent, and designed for global trust. CivicChain is a blockchain-based voting system that records every vote as a binary signal. 1 for yes, 0 for no, and no entry if you choose to abstain. Simple, immutable, publicly verifiable. Every 2 years, Arcadian citizens vote on mandates, legal reforms, economic decisions, even constitutional amendments. Those votes are recorded not by human counters, but by code. Each vote is encoded into a digital block using CivicChain, and that block becomes part of a permanent, cryptographically secured chain that anyone can inspect. But here's what makes CivicChain truly revolutionary. It isn't a bolt-on blockchain add-on. It's part of the Arcadian Constitution. That means it can't be suspended by political leaders. It can't be rewritten by courts. It is structurally protected as the one and only official voting system of the Republic. And more importantly, every citizen can independently verify their vote, anonymously, using what's called a civic hash. You can't trace the vote to a person, but you can prove your vote is there, locked in, just as you cast it. This isn't a tech solution, it's a civic reformation, encoded in transparency. CivicChain didn't emerge from a tech startup or a white paper. It was born from a constitutional vision, one that recognized that trust isn't a feeling, it's a structure. In the Arcadian Republic, voting isn't an optional feature of governance, it's the system itself. Every major law, reform, and even structural redesign must pass through the people's mandate, a public vote every 2 years. But that system only works if people believe it's real, secure, and unbreakable. That's why CivicChain is embedded into the Arcadian Constitution through an amendment known as IA, which mandates that all votes be cast, recorded, and verified through a decentralized blockchain. No branch of government, not the Arcadian Assembly, not the Civic Concord, not even the Arbiter, can change the outcome once a vote is recorded. And that's because CivicChain is tied directly into CivicNet, the Republic's digital backbone. It doesn't just count votes, it enables real-time modeling, simulations, and feedback loops, helping citizens make informed decisions at scale. In a world where trust is eroding, CivicChain rebuilds it at the source. Let's break it down. Here's how a CivicChain vote actually works, from start to finish. Step 1. You authenticate using your Civic key, a secure, biometric-linked identity token, either physical or digital. Step 2. You access the mandate via CivicNet, where each proposal has been simplified, modeled, and simulated for public understanding. You vote yes or no, binary and clear. Step 3. That vote is recorded on your local CivicChain node, a secure, decentralized hub maintained by your region. Step 4. Your local node batches those votes and sends them to a regional CivicNet node. Here, the data is verified, hashed, and confirmed against your region's civic registry. Step 5. Regional summaries are sent to the National Civic Registry, where they're permanently stored, timestamped, and linked together as part of the ongoing CivicChain ledger. Each stage includes hash verification, meaning every step checks the one before it for integrity. It's not a chain of trust, it's a chain of proof. So how does this all stay secure? The architecture behind CivicChain is intentionally layered, decentralized, and resilient. At the bottom layer, you have local CivicNet nodes. They are the first point of contact, authenticating voters, collecting binary votes, and creating initial blocks. Even in disconnected areas, these nodes can operate offline and sync later. Above that are the regional nodes. They receive encrypted batches, verify them, and summarize results into structural hashes. Think of these as the regional validators of civic truth. At the top is the National Civic Registry, a permanent public ledger that finalizes a vote. It doesn't just record results, it preserves them, in full context with simulation data, impact models, and anonymized metadata. This tiered architecture is what makes CivicChain resilient. If one local node fails, others still function. If a region is disrupted, its data is still valid once recovered. And because no single node or institution controls the chain, no one can manipulate it. This isn't just a blockchain, it's constitutional infrastructure, engineered for failure resistance and built to last. Security is one thing, but what about anonymity? In most digital systems, privacy is traded for access, but CivicChain is different. It guarantees both. Here's how. When you vote, your civic key authenticates your identity, but your actual vote is assigned a civic hash. This is a unique cryptographic signature that cannot be reverse engineered to identify you. Think of it as a one-way lock. You can prove your vote, but no one can trace it back to you. Every voter can independently check that their vote was recorded, using their civic hash and private civic key, but the public only sees an anonymized ledger, a sea of ones and zeros without names, accounts, or identifying info. This balance of visibility and privacy means you can trust your vote is there, everyone can see the results, but no one, not even the government, can know how you voted. CivicChain eliminates the need for blind trust. Instead, it offers verifiable anonymity, backed by math, not authority. Even the best code needs oversight. That's why CivicChain isn't left to run on autopilot. Arcadia builds multiple layers of civic and constitutional oversight into the system, making sure no one entity, algorithm, or institution has unchecked control. Here's how it works. At the base level, you, the citizen, are part of the audit layer. You can check your civic hash, verify your vote, and compare public tallies in real time. Next, there are oversight juries, groups of randomly selected CivicNet verified citizens who conduct routine audits, flag inconsistencies, and review anonymized logs. Above them are tribunal panels, judicial review bodies that intervene when systemic problems, vote tampering, or structural failures are suspected. And finally, the civic arbiter, a constitutional role trained to oversee mandates, validate feasibility, and moderate interbranch disputes, serves as the structural backstop. All of these layers operate transparently. Their findings, actions, and recommendations are published to CivicNet every cycle. This is more than just watchdogs. It's a design philosophy. Transparency is not a feature, it's a civic obligation, one that everyone participates in. Let's get brutally clear. Here's how CivicChain compares to what most people experience today in their elections. Modern voting systems rely on centralized servers that can be manipulated or hacked, require you to trust poll workers, election officials, and opaque tallying processes, offer little to no personal verification, struggle to provide access in rural or disconnected regions, and often produce results days or even weeks later, followed by endless litigation and speculation. CivicChain, by contrast, is decentralized, so there's no single point of failure. Immutable, meaning the votes cannot be altered once recorded. Auditable by any citizen at any time. Private, using civic hash anonymity. Fast, results are finalized in real time and transparently published. It's not just better technology, it's a fundamentally different way of thinking about power. Where legacy systems are built on institutional trust, CivicChain is built on verifiable truth. Security isn't a feature. In CivicChain, it's the architecture. Most systems protect the outcome of the vote. CivicChain protects every step, from identity to storage, transmission, and verification, using layered cryptographic defense. Here's what that looks like. Civic key authentication. Every voter holds a unique, time-locked identity key, digitally or physically issued. Without it, voting isn't possible. With it, fraud is virtually eliminated. Immutable ledger. Once your vote is cast, it's locked into a blockchain block. That block cannot be altered, ever. The hash makes tampering mathematically impossible. Tiered verification. Each local node verifies its batch, each regional node verifies the local layer, and the national registry locks in final results, all using hash matching protocols that ensure consensus at every step. Public auditability. Any citizen can check the vote tallies, civic hash logs, and cycle histories. Everything is transparent and timestamped. Independent oversight. Tribunal review, oversight juries, and the civic arbiter monitor system integrity continuously. This isn't security through obscurity. It's security through structure, built not to trust the system, but to remove the need for trust entirely. One of CivicChain's greatest strengths? Its simplicity. Most voting systems are complex. Multiple candidates, preference ranking, confusing ballots, unfamiliar machines. Complexity creates friction, and friction creates doubt. CivicChain solves that with elegance. One person, one vote, one decision per mandate, binary input, one for yes or zero for no, or nothing if you abstain. There are no algorithms deciding weight, no backroom tallies, no voter intent confusion. The ballot is clear and the result is final. Mandates are also simplified by law. Every proposal is reviewed by the dedicated simplification panel and then modeled using CivicNet simulation tools. Citizens don't just read what a mandate says, they see what it would do. This kind of legibility builds confidence, because when the system is clear, participation increases and skepticism drops. CivicChain doesn't hide complexity, it removes it. What's left is a system anyone can understand and everyone can trust. A system is only as strong as its weakest access point. That's why CivicChain was designed from the ground up to work everywhere, from cities with 5G fiber grids to remote villages with limited or no connectivity. In urban areas, citizens authenticate using biometric civic IDs through secure CivicNet apps or encrypted public terminals. Voting is fast, verifiable, and immediately logged. In rural or disconnected regions, voters receive timed civic keys, physical or digital tokens that are only valid during the voting period. These keys allow people to vote at local civic hubs or offline terminals, which sync with the blockchain once reconnected. Even in emergencies, natural disasters, power outages, communication blackouts, CivicChain continues to function. Offline votes are stored locally, time-stamped, and then uploaded when the network is restored. And critically, no one is disenfranchised by geography, connectivity, or mobility. CivicChain is not a luxury, it's a public utility, engineered for inclusion by default. This isn't just digital infrastructure, it's digital equity, built into the constitutional core. What happens when the power goes out? When the network fails? When the system is under pressure? Most digital platforms crumble under these conditions. CivicChain doesn't, because it was built with failure in mind. In a declared emergency, CivicChain activates its resilience protocol, a multi-tier fallback mode that allows voting to continue, even when digital infrastructure is down. Here's how it works. When the system detects widespread disconnection, it switches to offline voting mode. Civic keys still function, local civic hubs issue secure paper or digital ballots, votes are collected, timestamped, and stored on secure drives. Once connectivity is restored, whether by satellite, mobile relay, or direct sync, those votes are verified, hashed, and added to the blockchain. Throughout this process, identity remains secure and vote integrity is preserved. This protocol isn't theoretical, it's been tested in simulations, in disaster drills, and under pressure. Because democracy can't depend on convenience, it has to endure through power loss, through crisis, through collapse, and CivicChain makes that possible. Arcadia is fictional, but CivicChain isn't a fantasy, it's a blueprint. Nearly every core component of CivicChain exists today. Biometric digital identity, used in India and Estonia. Blockchain-based voting, tested in DAOs and city councils. Regional nodes and public auditability, available in decentralized infrastructure today. Constitutional integration, that's a matter of political will, not technological limitation. What CivicChain offers isn't a gadget or product, it's a systems model, one that shows what's possible when you align technology, governance, and civic philosophy, and this model is already influencing reality. Founders are building modular governance platforms, cities are piloting cryptographic referenda, even global organizations are exploring decentralized voting structures. CivicChain gives them a cohesive structure, not just what to build, but how to build it constitutionally, with citizen control baked in from the start. Arcadia is fiction, but CivicChain is a map, and the road is already being walked. So, how do we get from here to there? You don't start with elections. You start small, in places where the stakes are low but the structure matters. Here's the CivicChain rollout strategy. Step 1. Launch CivicChain in low-risk environments like student councils, community groups, or startup co-ops. Get feedback. Prove trust. Step 2. Run shadow ledgers alongside real elections. Voters use the existing system, but also cast a parallel CivicChain vote. Compare results, test accuracy, build confidence. Step 3. Expand to local elections, school boards, district referenda, using hybrid systems with physical civic keys and public CivicNet terminals. Step 4. Adopt CivicChain for high-impact national votes, constitutional amendments, referenda, or emergency policy actions. Use the transparent audit trail to establish legitimacy. Step 5. Codify CivicChain into law as a structural voting protocol. Make it part of the governance, not just a tool layered on top. This isn't a sprint, it's a staircase. Each level builds credibility, each vote builds legitimacy, and over time, CivicChain evolves from an experiment into a foundation. Governance isn't politics, it's infrastructure. Just like water systems, internet protocols, or public roads, it's a layer we all rely on, but rarely see, and just like any infrastructure, it can be redesigned. CivicChain isn't a policy tool, it's a protocol. A foundational layer that enables transparent decision-making, verifiable participation, and resilient civic systems. Just like the HTTP powers the web, CivicChain could power democratic coordination. A base layer that developers, cities, and institutions can rely on without needing a central authority. Instead of relying on laws to protect your rights, CivicChain makes those rights technologically enforced. You don't need to sue for a recount, you just check the chain. This is governance that scales. Governance that's programmable. Governance as code. If you're a founder, CivicChain opens an entirely new design space. You could build a DAO governance layer that uses CivicChain as the vote engine, a city-level participatory budgeting tool with real-time feedback, a network stake with verifiable constitutional votes, a co-op platform where shares and decisions are linked through civic keys, or even a CivicChain-powered grant program for artists and educators. This isn't just for governments, this is for startups, communities, creative networks, anywhere trust, accountability, and participation matter. You don't have to ask permission, you just have to start building. CivicChain doesn't ask you to believe, it asks you to check. In a world of deepfakes, propaganda, and polarization, auditable systems are the only antidote to institutional decay. We can't afford black box power anymore. We need ledgers, we need proof, we need code that holds itself accountable. That's what CivicChain offers. A future where no one rules in the dark, because the light is built into the protocol. The question isn't, can CivicChain work? It's, should it? Would you trust a blockchain to run your country? Would you trust your own vote more if you could verify it yourself? If you could read the entire ledger, line by line, and see your civic hash right there? That is the promise of CivicChain. Not just secure voting, not just digital government, but a reimagining of what democratic legitimacy looks like in the 21st century. So, what would you build with it? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe if you believe governance is worth rebuilding, and welcome to the Civic Renaissance. I thank you for your time and effort watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.